Hello YouTube, my name's Sean Collins and welcome back to the Outsiders channel, and this is the first session recap video for my Warhammer campaign called The Ties That Bind. It is based on the original Warhammer campaign, The Enemy Within, but this is an organic campaign that will grow as the players decide the direction of the campaign. So there's nothing really set in stone, it's just an initial starting point, and we'll see where this ship goes. The game actually begins, I'll just try to bring my pen in here, just at that little triangle there. Now that's actually the coach and horses. That's about 3 days out from that location down to Altdorf by coach. The characters start the campaign on foot, and they're attempting to get to the coach and horses, hopefully to find a coach that can take them the rest of the journey down to Altdorf. The reason that they're actually going to Altdorf is because they actually have a letter which is the starting point for the campaign. It's an potential initial job, and that is the basis that's brought the group together. Now, how they actually come together, we haven't explored how that happened initially. We've just assumed that they are together, but I have plans eventually to do videos depending on which players can make each session. We may go back in time and do a video about that, how they come together. That initial video is as follows. Wanted bold adventurers. His Excellency the Crown Prince Hergard von Tassenich of the Grand Principality of Ostland hereby gives notice that he is currently resident in Altdorf and wishes to engage the services of a party of skilled adventurers. Employment is to commence as soon as possible for an indefinite period. Would-be applicants are forewarned that they shall be required to undertake a most perilous mission into unexplored regions of the Grey Mountains. The manner is the utmost delicacy and absolute discretion is required. Remuneration is negotiable, depending on experience, but a minimum of 20 gold crowns per person per day is assured, in addition to a generous bonus upon successful completion of the mission. No laggards, cowards, or dwarfs need apply. Signed, His Excellency the Crown Prince Hergard von Tassenich. Let's now talk about the 5 stars of our show. We have Greta, played by Andrew Goy, Lithia, played by Jenny Green, Aldred, played by Tashif, Grindel, played by John Allen Large, and Giselle, played by Matthew Bryan. Greta is a halfling jailer whose jail burnt down in mysterious circumstances. Lithia is an elf from the Drakewald Forest. What she's doing in human lands and organisations is unclear, although there is an air of mystery and aloofness to her, and she clearly does not fit in with the old world's ways. We have Aldred, who is odd, scarred, has multiple odd features that just seems different. It's pretty clear this person is some sort of vagabond or rogue. We have Grindel, the Troll Slayer. Grindel, some massive faux pas took place in his homelands where there was many deaths, meaning that Grindel's life now became worthless. The only way to earn the respect of his tribe, his kinship, is to put himself in tremendous harm's way. A troll slayer will literally turn their hair orange, dye their beard orange, and mark themselves out for death, trying to find the most dangerous opponents they can. And in so doing, in so meeting such a grisly end, the hope is that they'll eradicate the sins that they have committed. Grindel keeps a book of grudges. We'll talk about that later. And we have Giselle, the mysterious bounty hunter, having just finished her last job, and in between jobs has somehow found her way into the group, and all of them have come together. Our initial story takes place on the 7th of Festag in the month of Perfluctesite, which is the 3rd month of the year. Most of the months of the imperial calendar have anywhere between 30 and 33 days. It's night time as our characters approach, I'll just mark this with a circle, the coach and horses. They arrive at the walls and gate that surround the coach and horses. It's a massive inn, one of the classic sort of inns in the Empire, over 2 stories high, probably as many as 30 or so rooms. It will have a massive stable block positioned to one side, and most of the Empire's road, most of the key roads run as cobbled roads with at least 20 yards of ground cut away to each side to create a clear view of the surrounding terrain around any coach or travellers that travel or traverse it. There's also road wardens, the patrol and various military forces that will go up and down the roads as well for safety. Coaching houses like this one are typically every 30 or so miles along the road, to mean that most people with horses can reach a coaching house in comfort within a day's worth of travel, again for safety purposes, making the Empire actually pretty much a bastion, a golden light in a golden age, really. Anyway, when they arrive at the Coach and Horses, there's an old-fashioned sort of pulley and bell on the outside, and it's pouring with rain, a bit of thunder and lightning around. And it does take the players a few minutes to summon any help, which comes from a couple of the stable hands who let them into the courtyard. The players quickly make their way across to the doorway into the inn. Once inside, they're greeted by a scene where they can see one gentleman on his own studying with some books, 3 ladies at a table, one of them is obviously well-to-do. We have a couple of coachmen very heavily drunk, obviously from the Cannonball Express, and we have a gentleman and some bar staff behind. The gentleman immediately moves forward from behind the bar and introduces himself, and his name is Gustav. Also seated at the bar is a gentleman with a floppish hat, cavalier type shirt, leather trousers, boots, etc., with a belt pouch and various other tools and accoutrements, who initially looks a little bit standoffish but is observing the players as they enter. The players themselves get used to Gustav's company. He's obviously a very happy guy, jolly fellow, and a fellow dwarf who wants their stay to be as welcoming as possible. Gustav provides his guests with drinks, food, which is a stew that's on the boil up in the fireplace on a large cauldron, and lodgings will be provided in the barroom area, the common room area, after the guests have gone to bed, in the terms of hammocks that are strung up for the guests to use. Details and prices of which were briefly discussed and glossed over. One of the key moments of the early part of the evening is where Lithia strikes up a conversation with Gustav because she does not think the food is up to scratch and wants something else. She asks to take a gander at what else is available. Gustav mistakes the word gander to mean duck or fowl, and the only duck that they have is a house duck, the pet duck of his good lady wife, Pembrokeshire. Gustav's motto in the Coach and Horses, the guest comes first, so he has no option in his view but to sacrifice the duck for Lithia. This doesn't go down particularly well between Gustav's wife and Lithia, but is one of the great comedy moments of this session. The next key scene involves Philippe de Cartes, the gentleman standing at the bar, who saunters over to the group. His initial attempts are to provoke a reaction from Grindel, trying to provoke him to lose his cool, maybe react by trying to persuade him that, you know, let's play a friendly game of cards and surely you're man enough to want to play. But Grindel, to his full credit, doesn't want anything to do with a friendly game of cards. Happy to watch and smoke his pipe, but not interested in getting involved. However, Giselle and Aldred are keen to play, and the first game of cards is just for a few silvers, which is still a significant amount of money. But Philippe just wins. Then he ups the ante into gold pieces. At this point, to her credit, Greta tries to persuade Giselle and Aldred to back out of the game, and does this for a few hands of cards, attempts to get the characters out of it. But they don't listen to Greta and continue playing and keep losing. In fact, 4 games of cards goes by with quite a lot of money having been lost. Obviously, Giselle and Aldred are both aware that something isn't right. They're losing just every time. Both of them try to figure out over the course of the game how Philippe de Cartes is actually winning this game. Now, Philippe de Cartes is a Bretonnian. Bretonnians come from the south of the old empire. They have very much a French and arrogance, a fil je ne sais quoi. And he has a flamboyance that I try to portray within the character. As a sample of that, Philippe would, oh, you were very unlucky, you must have only just lost, how unfortunate, it is not fair the way the cards have fallen. You know, he has that sort of annoyance about him. Anyway, Giselle and Aldred do realise that he is cheating. They can't actually confirm how he's doing it. It's something to do with the cards itself. It's like a magician's pack of cards. It doesn't matter how you cut it. It doesn't matter who shuffles them. He's able to manipulate the cards somehow, but they can't quite figure out how he's doing it. They know he's cheating, but they don't know how. However, after 4 games of this, Aldred confronts Philippe, accusing him of cheating. causes quite a scene in the Coach and Horses, and the only reason it doesn't turn violent there and then is Gustav's intervention, trying to a few drinks for my guests, perhaps you should go and call off. Philippe, demanding an apology, stomps off to his room. At the same time that Philippe de Cartes stomps off to his room, we have Gunnar and Hortz, the two drivers from the Cannonball Express, who are completely drunk, are also making their way upstairs. Aldred makes it clear after a moment after Philippe has left that he wants to head upstairs as well and see which room he's entered. But because of the dwarfs being sick and thrown up all over the place, it delays him momentarily going up the stairs, and by the time he gets up to the top, he cannot see Philippe de Cartes. For reference, these here are the key coaching companies within the Empire. This is the classic logo of the Cannonball Express, which is on Gunnar and Hortz's coach. This will become more important later within the story, but it's just for your reference for now. As Aldred reaches the top of the stairs but cannot find Philippe initially, the two dwarves also arrive upstairs and move over to one of the doors. There are a number of doors. The actual stairs that lead away from the downroom bar there's a balcony that runs all the way around the bar looking in. So there's probably about 12 rooms up there looking down into the main barroom area. The two dwarves begin fumbling around at one of the doors, both completely drunk. To his credit, and actually created quite an interesting scene, we had Aldred moves across the dwarves and asks if they need any help, as he can't find Philip's room. They say yes, allowing him to operate try to operate the key to his room. And as he fumbles around with the lock, can't seem to get it open, the door suddenly opens, and standing there is Philippe de Cartes. Philippe de Cartes, without any provocation at this point, calls out thieves and immediately opens fire with a loaded blunderbuss. An act that Aldred calls completely callous later on within his letter that he writes to the local authorities. The blunderbuss blasts straight into Aldred's chest, throwing him against the side wall, nearly knocking him to the ground. Now, once a sound like that goes off in the inn, you can imagine downstairs there's some sort of scenes of panic. We have Gustav in the back room comforting his wife, immediately rushes out the front. His wife immediately runs out the back of the inn to go and get help. We have Lithia downstairs. We also have Greta, who immediately dives under a table. Several of the other guests stand to defend either their patron or are pretty unmoved, as in the case of the gentleman by the books. But two people from downstairs that immediately jump into action are Grindel the dwarf and Giselle. Because Grindel is quite slow, Giselle passes him on the stairs and is the first to reach upstairs. However, by the time he gets upstairs, only a few moments, but by the time he gets upstairs and quickly takes in the scene, he realises he's in desperate trouble because Philippe de Cartes' blunderbuss is actually a duck's foot gun. So imagine a duck's foot with 4 barrels. One barrel's been unloaded. He attempts to grapple the gun out of Philippe's hands, but in so doing, the gun goes off. And it's quite a point-blank shot to Giselle's head. He called it two-toning, where half his face went bright with shrapnel wounds and the other half was okay. But that shot was so powerful, it almost immediately killed him, to be honest, outright. It left his head ringing, it left him deaf, it left him holding his head, he was concussed, he was in a right state and was thrown to the ground by the full force of the blast. At some point during the fight, although Greta remains under a table where she was sat for quite a period of time, she does make her way out while this commotion upstairs is going on and goes behind into the kitchen area to see what herbs and spices might be there. She realises that there's a couple of shots have gone off. There may be some need of her friends for medical help, so takes the opportunity to go behind and start searching for any unusual herbs or spices. She does indeed find some, which she's able to quickly prepare, and those herbs are used later on for healing purposes for a couple of the characters.